We're going to start off with a beautiful blank canvas full of lines, and we're going to start off with a backstitch. Now, backstitch is one of the most common stitches of an embroidery, and it's something that you'll need to learn and you'll be using a lot of. So we're going to start from the back of the fabric as usual. Put your needle into the back of the fabric, pull it all the way through until you feel that knot in the back and some tension. And then you're going to move up a few millimeters, or however big you want your back stitches to be. Put your needle back into the fabric and pull the thread through all the way until you feel that tension again. We don't want any loose thread back here. Then we're going to move up from the back of the fabric a few more millimeters, trying to keep the same amount of distance between them so that the stitches are the same length. And we're going to pull that through. You'll see we're creating a gap. There's a gap between the end of the first stitch and the beginning of this second stitch. Now we're going to go back into the same hole that we just ended up on in the last stitch. That's what makes this a back stitch. So we're going to pull that all the way through, and it's important to get the needle into that same hole because it ensures that there's no gap between your stitches and there's no fabric showing through, so it looks like a solid line. We're going to continue doing that again. There's another stitch that's starting a little further ahead, and then we're going to put our needle back through that same hole and pull that through. We're just going to keep going, trying to keep your stitches pretty uniform, the same size, unless you want to get funky with it and have some really cool different lines and different sizes because you're going for a specific look. Oops. And then sometimes this will happen, and you just want to be mindful of where your thread is. And that's why it's important to go a little bit slow. Pull that through. And we always want to check the back to make sure there's no tangles going on back here. So far, so good. And we've got a back stitch. Awesome. So you use back stitch for lots of things: outlines, borders, lettering, creating different elements and structures in your embroidery. And that's what it looks like. We're going to keep this row as just back stitches. We're going to use this row to create whipped back stitches. And what a whipped back stitch does is it creates a more solid looking line where you can't see these little divots in between each of the stitches. What we're going to do is take our same needle and thread and start at the end of one of your lines. Bring the needle through, and this needle is not going to go back into this fabric until we get to the end of that row. So we're going to take our needle and we're going to slide it underneath the first stitch. You see, this has not gone into the fabric at all. This is definitely just under that first stitch, and pull it through. We're going to do that again with the next stitch. From the top, we're going to put the needle underneath that stitch. Make sure to get it all the way underneath all the fibers of that thread, and then pull it through gently. We're going to go back to the top and go from top again. Pull it through gently. You don't want to pull too tight because then it's going to start to look a little funky. So you want to keep it a little bit loose, but not too loose. A little bit of an art form. And do that again, and then we're going to go all the way down the line, going up and over and under every stitch. Now it's important that these all go in the same direction for this particular whipped stitch. If you start mixing up the directions, it's not going to look as uniform, which is fine if that's what you want. But if you want it to look like a uniform line, you want to always go in the same direction. So for this, we're going top to bottom. If you wanted to go another way, you can go bottom to top. But either way, you got to keep doing the same thing. So once we get to the end of that row, we're going to put the needle into the thread, or sorry, into the fabric, and pull that through. So as you can see, this makes a more solid line. This stitching line, this back stitch has all of these divots in the middle. This whipped back stitch is completely solid. And that's how you get a look like this in your design. This is all whipped back stitch, all whipped back stitch. These are all whipped back stitch, and these are running stitches. We have one row of back stitches, one row of whipped back stitches, and then a third row of back stitches that we are now going to whip, but we're going to use a different color. Start at the edge of one of your stitches, back stitches, pull the thread all the way through, and then same thing here. I'm going to go from up to bottom. You can go from bottom to up, whichever you can, whichever is better for you, but pick one. So we're going to whip that first orange stitch. We're going to whip the second orange back stitch. We're going to whip the third orange back stitch. We're going to whip the fourth orange back stitch. See where I'm going with this? I'm going to put that in the back. And we are now going to introduce a third color to this, which is going to be this really pretty teal green. I don't know what it is, green, blue, teal, whatever. And we're going to double whip this back stitch, except this time we're going to go in a different direction. So with the yellow, we went from up to down. With the green, we're going to go down to up. So we're going to start at the end of the line where we started before. So make sure to get a good spot, because at this point it's getting a little crowded back there. Pull that through. And now we're going to go from bottom up. So find that first orange stitch from the bottom, pull that up, and then we're going to go to the next orange stitch. Then we're going to go to the next orange stitch. Sometimes you got to wiggle to see where that stitch is, because you can't really see it as well anymore now that the yellow is on top of it. So I'm going to put my needle under there, kind of wiggle it. Like, yeah, this is the right stitch. You don't want to backstitch the same stitch twice with the same color. And so now here we go. From bottom to up. From bottom to the top. From the bottom up, from the bottom up, And then the last stitch. And I'm gonna finish this up by putting that right back into the fabric. And then I would tie it off. I'm not gonna do it right now. But now we have a double back stitched line here. And this is where you see we have the orange is underneath, there's the yellow on top, and then there is green wrapping around that. And it kind of looks like a braid in a little bit of a way, but it adds like a really cool look and feature to your embroidery. So here are 4 ways for you to do a back stitch. So this is your regular back stitch. This is your whipped back stitch with the same color. This is your whipped back stitch with a second color. And this is your double whipped back stitch, which includes 3 different colors. So these are a few ways to diversify your backstitch portfolio. And I'm leaving this last line for you to experiment with your back stitches. So I'm not gonna do that here. I'm gonna leave it up to you and your creativity. Happy stitching.